of the most fundamental anomalies disturbing us as a country, which cuts across, is the fact that all successive governments, many a time, borrow on our domestic market at a higher interest rate than even the private sector. This is destroying the good and whatever AGI and investment. I haven't seen any country anyway, at least not the developed economies, that T-bills can give returns higher than risky assets from the private sector. So it's one of the areas we should also look at. And it's making all the financial economic models sharp 1965, I think Ross 70s, the 90s, Deming and Lien, is it Hadan and Lien, and then Deming 2015. All these models, they are not good pointers or applicable in our market, on our market or in Ghana. So one of the areas destroying us is the fact that governments borrow on our domestic market at a higher interest rate than the private sector. It's not done anywhere. It's not done anywhere. So we should also look at that. But going back to what I'll say my boss, because he is higher than me, and I have to accord him that respect. I think the parameters I stated, my boss cannot tell me that GDP wasn't somewhere around 3.2, 3.4 when they left power. It is a fact. T-bills for the same period, say 90 days or 300, was around 22. Even if he's saying 16.5, it has been improved now. It's a fact. Policy rate was 25.5. So what I'm saying is that the only thing they talk about and agree is the debt to GDP. But even that one, respectfully, he knows that our GDP has been impaired because of the impaired productivity, which is not the fault of the government. I don't think if NDC had been in power, they could have done anything better. It's a global situation. Now UK, they increase their policy rate by 0.75. It's very huge on their market. You were 0.5. So let us appreciate these things in the context I am talking about. It is a fact. Look, talking about COVID. Before I'll end this and go to your question about COVID. I am not a legal practitioner, but the PFM Act, 2016 Act 921, Section 18, state 3 areas that as a country upon consultation, even our fiscal rules and policies, we should suspend them. 1, when there is war. 2, when there is natural disaster. 3, when there's health epidemic. And yet people want to go into COVID. I mean, crucify this government. Procurement was not followed. Parliamentary whatever was not followed. When even the laws moderating how we should spend in times such as ask for suspension. So what I'm trying to say is that if we all want to go ahead and change things we think they are structural defect in our economy, let us do this holistically, especially some of us that are in these fields. It's very, very, very important. And the condition you were saying at the NDC, the crisis, you can never compare that to today. I don't think we had a situation where hotels, restaurants, markets were asked not to even come out of and stay home to impair productivity. They are different. And even if you consider debt alone and not the GDP, now, the year 2000, we had debt to GDP 145.8%. Don't let us talk as if this is an unprecedented issue in our country.
Okay, so let's talk about implementation.
Yes,
and the reason I raised that question is because some of these measures are not new. Some have been announced as far back as 2018, as I mentioned, like the travel ban we had in 2017 and later in 2018, and it doesn't appear nothing has happened. That's why we are back to it. So how can you assure the public that this will happen?
Samson, that is palpable false. I was the CEO of Maslow. When those pronouncements were made or communique was sent, it actually stopped some of us. We had international travels. We sent to the presidency before this God that we are all serving. And they did not approve. So sometimes some of the implementations are not made known to the other external stakeholders as a result of probably asymmetric information management. However, they have not had a required or expected impact on us. That one I agree with you. But just as Doctor said, and I'm sure Honorable Setope and myself and you yourself, in the interest of the country or the state, we are all pushing. We are begging the relevant stakeholders and authorities who have what it takes, the exclusive right and prerogative in implementing these things to ensure that they shouldn't just be lip services and try to implement them to the core. And still look at other areas they can cut. Because I still think there are areas that we have wastage or waste.